David, when you think about AI repurposed drugs, where do you see the greatest opportunity? Is it in rare diseases? Is it in pediatric diseases? And certain rare diseases can be pediatric as well. Or is it in diseases that impact large populations? Maybe it's infectious diseases that, could cause, pandemics. Or is it that we're still suffering from chronic diseases and heart disease, cancer, and stroke? It can't be all of those as your answer. so where's the greatest opportunity?
Yeah, it's such a great question. So from our deep evaluation of this space over the last 2.5 years, it's clear there's sort of two big opportunities, and one of them is due to the system that we're in. So 80% of all FDA approved drugs, 80% of those 3,000 approved medicines are already generic. They're off patent, which means that there is no financial incentive whatsoever to find a new use for that drug. So 80% of the drugs that are in our CVS nearby that we write prescriptions for, there is no incentive for a drug company to find a new use for those drugs. On top of
And I
that,
should point out, as you know, there's only about 30 or 40 new molecular entities that are approved every year. So it's not a new number of, new molecular entities. It's other things, yeah.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, so there's about 3,000 FDA approved drugs, and 80% of those are generic. The other 20% that are on patent, they'll all be generic within 15 years from now. And so the clock is always ticking, which means that drug companies are always having to consider which disease do they take their drugs into. And so, I've learned that somewhere between 20 and 40 diseases may be considered for a given pharmaceutical product, but it may only be pursued for one or two diseases. So one area is inexpensive, cheap generic drugs. There are a lot of opportunities where amazing academic researchers have found that this drug looks promising. There might be some off-label use of it, but it's not fully utilized because there's no sales force behind it and there's no concerted effort to get more use. So I think that's one really big opportunity: cheap generic drugs, finding more uses for them. The other place that sort of maybe ironically where there's a lot of opportunity are diseases where there's already a lot of drugs in that disease, or disease areas where there's already a lot of drugs. So